Welcome to Her Hungry Heart with Giovannie Espiritu, where curiosity meets connection. This is a space for creatives, storytellers, and everyday people searching for meaning, diving into the art that shapes us and the journeys that bring us closer to the truth. Today, I'm sitting down with Marc Marriott, the director of the visually stunning film Tokyo Cowboy. When I first heard about this film, a Japanese businessman navigating a cattle ranch in Montana, I had my reservations. I was thinking, was this another diversity checklist film, or did it actually have something deeper? But then, the cinematography, the heart, and the raw authenticity of the storytelling just pulled me in. Like the film's protagonist, I've been on my own journey of questioning what is real, especially after my experience with Love and Karma and the whirlwind of industry politics. So, in this conversation, we're unpacking the layers of Tokyo Cowboy, from Mark's vision to the challenges of cross-cultural storytelling to the universal themes of self-discovery that hit way closer to home than I expected. Let's dive in.
I watched your movie over the weekend and I thought it was wonderful. I love the diversity of culture that you have in there. And I read from your bio that you lived in Japan and you apprenticed under someone. So, can you tell me?
Yeah,
Well, I want to know about what it was like living in Japan and why did you apprentice under, I don't even know.
Yoji. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yoji Yamada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
So I was studying film. This was in when I was in my undergraduate, doing my undergraduate work. I had lived in Japan already. I had lived there for 2 years in mostly around Hiroshima, and I actually was there first as a missionary. So I learned Japanese. I had this amazing cultural experience that taught me a lot, kind of. And actually, my experience in Japan is a little bit mirrored, I think, in this film because, it's when I was in Japan, I kind of went there, uh, as a very enthusiastic, kind of outspoken American, and I quickly learned that like I needed to listen more than I spoke and really kind of let this culture into my heart and I needed to find a little bit of humility, kind of like this character. And so I had this, kind of amazing experience that really affected me a lot. And then when I came back and I was studying film, um, Yoji Yamada, who's like this, amazing legend of filmmaking in Japan, he had come to visit my undergraduate university. They had like a really good international film program. And after that, I wrote a letter to him and just asked if he would consider taking on an apprentice for his next film. And amazingly, surprisingly, he wrote back and said, "Yeah, sure. I'm doing my next Torasan film series film in Austria. Why don't you come and join us in Austria and then in Tokyo?" And that was a really amazing
Was
experience.
it a job? Like he flew you out there and he what
So I'm
work
trying to remember. I know I paid for some of it, and I think they paid for my living
Okay.
expenses when I was with them. And then like I found a friend to live with in Tokyo, but in Austria, we were there for like a month shooting, and
Wow.
and like I got to, shadow him, and he makes these really like his film career spans decades, and
I'm
he's
gonna look
made
him up now. So
yeah, so many amazing films, and including like some of my favorites are the Twilight Samurai
okay.
uh film, and but Torasan still is the longest running film series in the world, and I worked on like this 42nd film in the series. And his films are just filled with a lot of humanity and a lot of heart and a lot of humor, and
Which Tokyo Cowboy has a lot of
yeah, yeah. Like I love hearing that because like that's my aspiration. I wanted to make films that kind of had those same qualities.
well, you
And
definitely
that
did.
was
I like.
that was a lot of the inspiration. Yeah.
How did this film come about? How long was it since you apprenticed in Japan, and then like how did the actual, production come together? I noticed that, um, one of your lead characters is the writer too, right? Like Ayo.
Yeah. Yeah, Ayako Fujitani, she's amazing, actress and writer. Um, and so the idea, the kind of the genesis of the idea goes back a long ways. It goes back all the way to about that same time when I was apprenticing with Yoji Yamada. Around that same time, this was like the early 90s. I noticed an article about a real ranch in Montana that was owned by a Japanese company, and they would send workers over to Montana and they would learn ranching and become cowboys. And so it was, I think the article, this particular article, there were a lot of different articles at the same time because it was kind of an unusual thing to write about. This
Yeah.
was a cool thing that people were noticing. But the article itself was, I think it was called Samurai Slickers, right? And just the idea of Japanese cowboys really was interesting and intriguing to me. And I just thought wow, that could be a movie.
Yeah.
That's a good starting point for a movie. And it just kind of stuck in my head for many years. Um, I had gone to film school. My undergraduate was at Brigham Young University, and then I went to UCLA for my graduate film school, really with the idea of doing narrative features. And I was attached to I had some really successful short films
Okay.
at UCLA, and then right out of UCLA, I was attached to do a feature film as a director. It was a John Updike novel adaptation called Of the Farm, and I didn't really know anything at that time about how to set up a film, what to do. We had John Ritter attached to be in this film, who I really loved, and then like it kind of came together, and then John Ritter died, and at the same time, like I had a young family. We were about to have our first child, and I had a neighbor in Santa Monica who worked in television, and she said, like, I've seen your work. I know you're talented. Why don't you come and work in, kind of documentary reality television? It was the beginning, really, at that time of like the big documentary reality television boom. So that's what I kind of did for a long time. I worked in television. I was a series producer, a field producer. I was did series for, Discovery Channel, Learning Channel, Travel Channel,
Which it
different
makes
things.
like your cinematography probably like
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, it all
So
like comes together.
yeah, well, it really does because I thought I was kind of taking this kind of, different turn into an area that I didn't really know about, but it turns out that experience was really amazing, and I have loved working in documentary, and now I do a lot of corporate industrial work all over the world, and it's taken me all over the world. And then I had a friend from way back named Brigham Taylor who came to Los Angeles around the same time that I did, and he started working in a low level uh, development job at Disney, and then he like worked himself way up through the ranks until he was like an executive producer, and it was his idea to do Pirates of the Caribbean, and
What?
he produced Jungle Book, and he produced like all these incredible films. So he's a really well-known producer, and I had the opportunity to do the behind the scenes and bonus feature work for his film Christopher Robin.
Okay.
And then we were talking, we would often talk, and I said, I really want to do a feature film. It's time for me to do a feature film. And he said, well, why don't you, pitch some ideas to me? And the first one that I really thought of was this Japanese cowboy idea. And I shared with him the article, and I told him kind of how I maybe saw this, and we started talking about this idea and just the tone of it and what it would be. And I got really excited, and he got really excited because he really loves independent films. He goes to Sundance Film Festival every year, but he's always worked on these big studio films that are kind of formulaic, kind of, engineered for a large audience. And he got really excited about doing a story kind of like this that's a little more authentic. It's based on, you know, kind of real people trying to just follow one character's journey and see where that leads, and infuse it with a lot of humor,
Yeah.
but the humor wouldn't be too forced. Like it would always come out of like these natural situations, and so that's the film that we started to make, and we he's just so good at story and developing, so we developed a really solid outline, and then we
How long
brought
did
on.
it take? Like, what was the process like?
Yeah, so my first meeting with him about this Japanese cowboy project was in February, and of, let's see, what would that have been? 2020, I think. And
Before
then
the
in
pandemic?
March the pandemic hit.
Yeah. And then
And
what
so,
happened?
like, all my work in documentary and all my corporate industrial clients, everything just like fell off a cliff. And I had like kind of, it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise because I had all this time now to devote to developing this project. I think we worked on the outline for about 5 or 6 months,
Okay.
and then we knew it was time to get a writer attached, and he knew Dave Boyle,
Okay.
who's done a lot of Japanese theme projects and is the
Okay.
writer recently of House of Ninjas on
Watched
Netflix.
episodes of that. So yes,
Yeah,
very, very
yeah.
cool.
So Dave, really, this was a very different kind of project tonally from what he had done in the past. Like I was familiar with a film that he did called Man from Reno, which
Okay.
also starred Ayako Fujitani. And so that's how I was aware of her as well. And so, but he really responded to the this idea. And then we also realized that we really needed a Japanese native voice
Yeah.
in the creation of this. And so he partnered with Ayako Fujitani, and they took it from there. And the first draft of the screenplay was like nearly ready to shoot. It was just they did an amazing job.
I mean, like, I love the story of it, and I love how you bring different communities together. That's what I love of it, and I love there were just certain shots in there that I thought were just so great. Like, this is not any spoilers, but there's
Yeah,
a shot of so I have ADHD, so I forget names, right? But your
yeah,
main character and Ayoko outside looking at the sakura tree, and there's like a glass.
yeah, yeah,
Saw that and I was just like, yes. Or like
yeah.
with him in the corner of the bar with like in like the U of the bull on the
Oh
bull.
yeah, yeah,
Like some of those I just like appreciate so much, like the thought
yeah,
that goes into it. It's a very, very beautiful movie, which is I'm gonna
yeah. And
tell the ball.
kudos, a shout out to our cinematographer Oscar Jimenez. Did an amazing job. It's great to work with him. Yeah,
Can I get into like nerdy stuff where it's
yeah.
like how many how long did you need for pre-production? How many days did you shoot? How long post-production? And like what was the process getting like did you go through the grants for the Montana state thing for this?
Yeah, we originally, I really wanted to shoot in Montana because that's where this original ranch was that I had heard about. And so that's where we went first to scout, and we found these incredible locations, but we also were aware that they have a generous tax credit incentive. And so we took advantage of that. We went up there and scouted it a couple of times. We found a local producer named Jerry Rafter, who was tremendously helpful and really key to finding like the local crew. We
Mhm.
we hired mostly all local crew, and she's kind of the keeper of the crews up there. And she was like, she read the story and she's like, this is really cool. I love this story, and it's different from a lot of the films that we've been doing. These westerns are kind of like, uh, some of the different genre pictures that she had been doing, and so she got excited and she's like, I'm gonna get the best crews, on this. And she really did. We went up there, we were in pre-production for, I think it was really only about 6 weeks
Okay.
pre-production on site. And then our shooting schedule We only shot for 15 days
In
in
Montana.
Montana. Yeah.
And then you had a
And
second.
then in Tokyo, we shot there for 4 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. With an extra kind of like, there was like a guerrilla shooting day that we did.
Okay.
So it was five shooting days in Tokyo and 15 in Montana. So 20 days total.
Still not.
Super, super, super compact schedule. We were shooting like 5 pages a day.
Yeah. Um,
Really, really moving.
that's very efficient, and I give kudos.
Yeah.
How long was post-production?
Post-production, it seems like let's see, we were done shooting by mid June. I think by September we had a first cut. So so like yeah, it was about 3 months of the edit before we had a good solid first cut, and we were hoping to make, some of the deadlines for festivals. We
Yeah.
were kind of rushing to make the deadline for Sundance. So we sent off a screener to them, but then we continued to like refine it a little bit. We did a little bit of showing it to some trusted friends and getting notes. Brigham has like a little screening room at his house, and so we like hosted a couple of like little screeners, and that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Definitely. Uh, yeah, so like all the music, um, stuff like that. Um,
What was the
did
hardest thing on set that you had to encounter? Like, what was the?
Yeah. Well, one of the things is that Montana shooting, the weather is really unpredictable. And it changes really rapidly. So the first day of shooting, we showed up the set and it's like like snowing in sheets, like it's just coming down. And we were supposed to be shooting outside later in the day. We started inside, and I'm looking out there and I'm thinking there's no way we're going to be shooting outside. And Jerry Rafter, again, our local producer, she's like, no, this is going to clear up and we're going to be able to shoot, don't worry, like this is going to melt. And it did. We had some other, like, there's always things that go wrong, like uh film production is kind of like going into battle, and it's like a war, and you're moving your troops, and you're hoping that like you can just kind of have this cohesive vision that you can communicate and hold on to the things that are most important, and when things go sideways or wrong, make some adjustments. Like one of those adjustments was we were shooting that scene at the quinceanera, that party with
Spoiler?
Javier.
That's not a spoiler, right? That's not.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got this scene that's really one of my favorite scenes in the
Yeah, I'm gonna
entire
edit that
film.
out. I'm gonna.
And okay.
Yes.
Anyway, there was it was going to rain, and I had planned to shoot it, with outside, and we still did it outside, but we got these tents, and it rained on us, and it rained on the tents, but like it actually ended up being like this really intimate kind of nice little setting for that scene, and so yeah, it was really cool.
I love when that happens when things don't go the way that you think it should go on set, but then whatever happens becomes even more beautiful than what you had originally planned. Um,
Absolutely, you've got to like lean into these happy accidents, and you go into everyday shooting with a solid plan. I had like uh what do you call them? The oh my gosh. Oh, your storyboards, right? You got your storyboards, and you've got your script, and you've got the whole plan for the day. And then something different happens, or you block out the scene, and the actors have a different idea, and you've got to in the moment kind of decide whether that's a good idea, whether you're going to go with that. Something kind of comes as like an obstacle, seems like an obstacle, but it might really help you,
yeah.
might really help you tell the story. Yeah.
Awesome. Any words for creatives or filmmakers out there that are just getting started?
One of the biggest things that I learned on this project, and again, this is my first feature film. I hope to do more. Um, I think I'll get a chance to because we've had some really good success with this film. Won a lot of awards at festivals. It had a really great limited theatrical release.
Ooh.
We're about to release it on video on demand March 17th, so I'm excited for that. It's going to be available nationwide.
What
Um,
services?
Platforms.
Yeah, what platform?
Yeah, so it's going to be on Apple TV, Amazon, Google Play, Fandango at Home, and YouTube.
Okay, great.
Those five. So March 17th, definitely check it out. Um, Doing this, one of the biggest things that I learned was just the value of surrounding yourself with really talented people. You know, like film is something that you can't really do yourself. You need a team, and I really found that like by surrounding myself with producers like Brigham Taylor, with writers like Dave Boyle, Ayako Fujitani, like I had this vision of like the film that I want to make, but unless you can communicate that vision and get other people to understand it and come on board and add their talents, it's really hard to get anywhere. And so I would encourage, people just starting out to really find some like-minded, talented individuals that they can collaborate with. Film is a collaborative medium.
Great. And what would you want the audience to take away from your film? Like once they watch it, what do
Yeah,
you want them to like sit in their heart and in their gut?
yeah. I've heard from a lot of people that this is a film, Tokyo Cowboy is a film that really does stay with people. And I think the reason that it does is because it's essentially a film about um, this character who's not connected to anything. He's not connected to the land. He's not connected to his fiancee, his work. He really doesn't realize how deeply unhappy he is until he goes through this process, and it's really about bridging those divides between people and cultures and becoming connected. And so I think that's a powerful idea, particularly right now for people, just to like we're so disconnected. And here's a film that it really does have a lot of heart and humor and humanity in it, and it is a feel-good film, but
Mhm.
it's a feel-good film that really we found appeals to, like kind of,
Broad spectrum of people. Like,
broad spectrum, like people that really love genre movies or independent films or grittier stuff. Like we did it in an authentic way, and so it doesn't feel like it's sappy or something that was overbaked. it,
yeah,
it really is authentic, and people have been really responding to that.
I felt that like and it like I kind of to be absolutely transparent and honest, right? I
Yeah,
kind of went into it like being like, okay, this is interesting, not to be like white man making a movie about a Japanese cowboy type of thing. But
yeah,
I watched it and I was like, I love the way that you brought all of the communities together. And yeah, it did feel very like authentic. It felt very heart based and not just like a checking off of like a diversity thing. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so
yeah.
like I was just like, thank you for that because I really enjoyed watching these communities come together. And I do think that we need more of that in the world. So thank you for making.
That's that's the reaction right there that I'm looking for from the audience. That's what I'm hoping,
Yeah.
people will really feel. Because we did take great pains to get this right. Like we really, every scene that we did, every cultural kind of moment, we like really took pains to like ask people that were on the set or people that we were working with or the Japanese cast or the uh our cinematographer who's Latino, like does this feel right? Does this look right? Does this make sense to you? And so I think that really comes through. We've actually had a lot of Japanese audience. This was released in Japan also, and it ran in Japan for like 4 months in the theater.
Wow.
It's been tremendously successful there, and we've heard from different people that have said, this feels like a movie that was made by Japanese filmmakers, and like to me, that's like the highest compliment I could get, or our team could get, really. So that's been really cool.